I'm going to say everybody's two favorite letters here, I'm a huge fan and an early adopter of AI, but I am going to say that this is one of those times when AI is not our friends.
All that and more on Security Intelligence. Hello and welcome to Security Intelligence, IBM's weekly cybersecurity podcast where we express our undying gratitude for the many tools, tactics, and people who keep us safe from ransomware shakedowns, rogue AI agents, and sundry other maladies. I'm your host, Matt Kosinski. It's Thanksgiving time here in the U.S., and I am thankful for this wonderful panel in front of me today, featuring Suja Viswesan, VP Security Products, Dave McGinnis, Global Partner, Cyber Threat Management Offering Group, and Nick Bradley of X-Force Incident Command, and the Not the Situation Room podcast. And to start us off, I wanted to ask you all what you are thankful for in cybersecurity world, or maybe not cybersecurity. Maybe you don't feel very thankful about that stuff right now. Nick, let's start with you. What are you thankful for?
I'm thankful that we did not have another SolarWinds, Move It, or Colonial Pipeline level event. I mean, we had some bang up outages. I mean, AWS East 1 and Cloudflare sure tried to take some trophies there, but I'm going to knock on wood and leave it at that.
I like that. Suja, how about you?
I'm really thankful that many enterprises are coming together to fight this, right? It's not a competition anymore. It's like co-optation, everybody coming together to fight. So I'm really grateful that companies are coming together.
I like that too. I think we're going to need more of that. Dave, how about you?
I'm just thrilled and thankful that security is not being left behind in this latest technology revolution. So we're always the last dog at the trough. So it's good to know that AI is changing the world and security is being spoken about, which is great. But I will echo with Nick, because usually it's the internet emergencies where Nick and I spend most of our time together. So 'tis the season. So yeah, I'm with you on that one too, Nick. That's great.
I feel like we just jinxed ourselves when we were going to get off this call and there's going to be some kind of terrible incident. But we can wait until that happens.
Dave and I have been meaning to hang out again for a while, so I guess it's time.
We're due.
I like that, the silver lining. You're always such an optimist on the show, Nick. Here's what we're talking about today, though. We got IBM X-Force's new public GitHub repository, a dark web job market trends report, Factory catches an AI-powered fraud campaign, and a man who tried to turn wind turbines into crypto mines. But first, it is holiday scam season. Now, as everybody knows, Black Friday marks the unofficial start of everyone's least favorite holiday tradition, and I'm not talking about waking up early for those doorbuster deals, although on side note, I don't know that anybody does that anymore, and I might just be aging myself. But I'm talking about scam season. Around the holidays, scam incidents tend to skyrocket. Often impersonating real retailers, scammers will set up fake websites, fake ads, fake promotional texts and emails, all to steal people's money or personal data. Now, according to a report from Checkpoint, hundreds of new Black Friday-related domains have been registered in October and November, and an estimated 1 out of every 11 of those domains is malicious, which that's a decent number. Now, a lot of coverage of these scams looks at how they affect everyday people, which makes sense. But, we at IBM, we deal a lot with enterprise security, and so I wanted to talk about it from that angle. How do these scams affect organizations? What do they do to the enterprise? Suja, let's start with you. How does the holiday scam season affect us here in corporate world?
Two things, right? One, it has changed it becomes a threat to the brand. Right? It's first of all, it's threat to a business, but it's also threat to a brand. Because from the user perspective, we have learned that just educating the user is not enough. So every company has a brand to protect. So from IBM perspective, how do we help our enterprise so that their brand is protected? So educating the enterprises to work closely with that marketing. Now, security needs to work with marketing and branding to make sure that if there is an anomaly, they are able to catch it ahead of time. The second one I would say is when a bunch of domain get created closer to these, we should be like vetting them much more closely as part of our security vetting than anything else.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned security and marketing and branding should kind of work together, because I think that we don't necessarily think of that as being a common pairing, but especially at this time of year, you're going to need to do that kind of thing, right? Because that Checkpoint report also found that when it comes to those malicious domains, a lot of them are masquerading as like real places, right? They're pretending to be Amazon or, the big companies that we're used to.
I'm going to say everybody's two favorite letters here, I'm a huge fan and an early adopter of AI, but I am going to say that this is one of those times when AI is not our friends, because AI has made it so easy for them to set up these mimic domains like that. And it's not like it used to be where it looks hokey or quirky and you could tell, this does not look like the Home Depot normal website. No, it looks exactly like it because AI created it for them. So it's gotten more dangerous.
I'm going to add one thing to what Nick said, is thinking about, on one side, AI is making it easy. AI is making it difficult for the consumers too. If you have a bot, because we are telling everybody that you need to get on board with AI, if you're having an AI bot created to go buy stuff for you, it can get spoofed by these AI websites too, and then give your information without you realizing it. So it is a big problem.
The enterprise trying to just sell their wares, right? So they've made all of their changes. They're in their change freeze. It's their biggest time of the year. They're not getting people trampled anymore. They're getting trampled online, to your point there, Matt. Right? So, they've already increased their monitoring of their environments and their applications. Now they have to worry about their domains being stolen, right? And it looking really good to the points you guys have just made. They got to watch their checkouts and their secure payments. They got to educate, to your point, Suja, not just their employees. They got to worry about their customers, their clients, right? And then how do you fix it? Are you going to go to your hosting providers and take down the sites? Like, what are you going to do to take care of those sorts of things? So, yeah, I mean, the burden that's now on, on them is just, it's skyrocketed.
Yeah, it's like you folks are reading my mind, because you all just systematically answered all the questions I was about to raise about this stuff. But I want to go back to something that Suja had mentioned real quick, which was how it's not just the way that the AI can be used by the kind of attackers to spin up these websites, but it's also, like you said, we're entering a world where people are they're starting to set up their own agents, and they go and they buy stuff for you, and that stuff can get scammed. I was kind of hoping you would expand on that angle just a little bit more for us. How is this kind of complicating the terrain for enterprises right now?
I think the one thing is, you can create, like you said, you can create an agent to go say, find me the best deal in the internet for me to go. And for an agent, it doesn't know if it's a legitimate or not, because as a user, if my prompt is not engineered correctly, I might be misleading this agent to go do stupid things, right? Which I might not have done by myself, which I'm capable of doing it, but less capable. Now I'm enabling my agent to be more stupid. So these are all. So the biggest thing for me is the payment systems, the transaction processing need to get more intelligent to avoid this, because like I said, we are going to do stupid things inadvertently. How do we stop from happening? Is the payment system has to become very, very intelligent to know that it's doing something. So it's not just the enterprises and brand, even our transaction processing needs to become more intelligent and be fraud resistant.
Absolutely. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier about how we need this increased kind of collaboration. I mean, we're talking about so many different players here. Nick, I saw you starting to say something. You want to jump in here?
One of the things that I think a little bit differently on now than I used to, because I used to really be a non-supporter of all of the cybersecurity education courses that we've all been forced to go through, that we just want to click through it so that we can get the certificate so our manager can stop telling us to get it done. But this is one of those cases where user education is actually still a little bit important. And that's just because the landscape has changed. There's so many things that people need to understand. And the basic one first is don't do your holiday shopping on your work laptop. I know it's tempting and it's easy, but let's just take that out of the equation. You already have a phone, just use your phone. So part two to that now is obfuscation, right? There's new levels of obfuscation that people aren't used to, or that they just might not even realize is a bad thing. The little URL shorteners, those things are just traps waiting to happen. And then you also have your own safety. You can take measures to be safe yourself, right? If you usually shop on Amazon, or you usually shop, and I mentioned them again before, maybe they'll sponsor me, I don't know, Home Depot, but go to the site that you're used to going to, right? Don't go through an email that, wow, Home Depot never emails me, but this time they sent me an email with a cute little shortened URL to take me to this special offer. Sure they did. Go ahead. That's going to work out well. Don't do that. Just like you do with your bank, right? You go to your bank site that you're used to using. Don't go through some other shortcut somebody provided you. And then lastly, I'll throw on top of that is just protecting yourself through more than one level of fraud protection. Right, using tap to pay at the grocery stores, the stores like that are safer. Using a Google Pay or an Apple Pay when you're buying something online, something that gives you one extra level, or even PayPal, right? I know that's old school. I'm aging myself now, but those things give you an extra level of protection other than just using your debit card and just getting completely ripped off, right? So just other ways that you can protect yourself. I say this all the time, there's no silver bullet. But in this case, these are some things that could help. Maybe it's a 10 bullet. I don't know, almost as effective.
I do like, though, that you point out something that's so extremely simple, but it's like one of the most important things you can do. Don't do your holiday shopping on any of your work devices, man. Just don't do it. Never do that. If you don't do that, you're not going to be the one who gets your company, breached. It's going to be someone else, and you don't have to worry about it that much, But to round out the segment, though, I wanted to go back to something that you had said earlier, Dave, which is how the burden now is so much higher on kind of security teams to deal with this stuff as it comes faster and it comes at greater scale and it maybe is more convincing. Do you have any thoughts on how they deal with that burden? I mean, how do you respond to this landscape when scamming is so fast and so easy?
It just feels like the answer to everything these days is AI, and then you have to fight AI with AI. But you're not going to solve it with people. I mean, it's. I mean, yeah, sarcasm, but it is the answer. It's if you can't generate it with humans, you're not going to be able to fight it with humans, right? And this isn't being generated with humans, right? So if there's a zillion permutations, you need something that can handle a zillion permutations and suss through it. It's going to have to be something, along those lines. But then I think, the point that Suja made just a moment ago around, some of the responsibility going back to the payer systems, right? If they're not allowed to process the transaction, I really don't care that it's a fake Home Depot site. I want Nick to get sponsored really bad. So I don't know why. But I mean, if the transaction can't go through because the payer system has decided, hey, you know what, that's a fraudulent site, and we've taken it offline. That there's more due diligence or whatever that entails. Maybe the first couple get through, and then flagged. And I know that's what happens, but maybe there's some that could be sped up or something along those lines. So, and maybe AI could help that too. I'm sure they're working on it.
I wish we go to this place where when something is too good to be true, it's probably not true.
Thank you. I'm glad somebody said it. I was trying to avoid saying that because I think I said that like 5 times in a row on my podcast. I'm like, don't say it again.
Yes. I mean, we've said this so many times on the show. So much of cybersecurity is just teaching people basic, like, human common sense kind of lessons, about certain things. And I also just, wonderful tagline, if it wasn't generated by humans, you can't fight it with humans. That's great. I mean, Dave, if you ever want a second career in copywriting, you got the touch, man. Yeah,
you need to copyright that for somebody else. I don't know about
that. Let's move on then to our next story. X-Force introduces a public GitHub repository for malware threat research tools. The new GitHub is intended to host every project the X-Force threat research team contributes to or creates for public use. It's currently home to X-Force's fork of Dragodis, a framework for a universal dissembler script that helps reverse malware code so researchers can analyze it. X-Force's fork of NSIS Reversing Suite, a Python library for analyzing the nullsoft scriptable installer system installers often used by malware. The GULoader dumper, I don't know if I said that right, but the GU Loader Dumper, a tool developed by X-Force to dump GU Loader payloads, and .NET Utils, an X-Force created library for parsing, emulating, and patching .NET executables. Now, again, this goes back to something that Suja mentioned all the way up top, talking about the more collaborative kind of landscape in threat intelligence, and this seems like an extremely collaborative move to me, open sourcing these tools, putting them out there for other security professionals to use. So, Dave, I want to start with your reaction here. How do you feel about this kind of open source collaborative approach to security that we're seeing?
I think the good here outweighs the bad. And look, I know that we can fall on there's good, there's bad. I like the open collaborative. I think security should be done out in sunshine, right? I think the dark corners, right? I mean, I've been doing this a long time. It doesn't help to hide stuff. We all win together. And if I've got something good, it does no benefit that I keep it to myself, right? So I'm all for this. I think the benefits here, just far outweigh. Hopefully others line up behind us and go, you know what? It's about time, right? I really do think this is the right thing to do. So.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You just learned to work in the dark. I was born there.
Was that a Bane reference?
That was my Bane. Dave, I mostly agree with you, actually. And the funny part about that is I didn't want to because I am not a fan of open source just about anything. But in this case here, I have to agree with you. Because I think this is the way we're going to work together. And I think we saw a little bit of that with some of our earlier tools that didn't go all the way to this level. And this, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm not going to lie. I really hope it's successful, and I look forward to messing around with it myself, to be honest.
Nick, I'm kind of glad you said that you're a little skeptical of open source stuff, because I had a feeling you'd be the one I wanted to ask this question to, which is open sourcing stuff does kind of come with certain risks, doesn't it? And especially when you think about we've seen GitHub be like an attack surface for some serious attacks this year, right? And I'm kind of wondering how you balance the benefits of open sourcing security tools like this with the need to defend this as like a new part of an attack surface, right? Like how do you deal with people, I don't know, cloning your GitHub and pretending to be you, for example? We've seen that happen before. Any thoughts there?
You might not be referring to Shai Hulud or other types of attacks of that nature. So that's the problem, right? But the issue is not the open source itself. The issue is, the easiest way I could say the issue is being lazy, because open source can be secured better. And that's where the problem comes into play. It's not the open source itself. It's the inability to enforce regulation on keeping it secure. When it's open source, there's so many people with their hands in the pudding, and there's so many people that aren't doing things the right way. And there are methods that can be used to keep open source more safe. It's just in non-open source situations, that's forced. You have to follow these rules. And that's not perfect either, but it's a little better.
It's the hygiene. It's the hygiene.
Thank you. There was the professional word I was looking for.
Well, good. Let's get Suja. I want to bring you in here too to get your thoughts on that hygiene, but also just in general, the open sourcing of this stuff. Does anything stand out to you? How are you feeling about it?
From security perspective, competitive edge isn't secrecy anymore, right? It's speed. So it's important to go share these with the industry. Like I said, it's a team sport, but how fast the SOC and all the companies can adapt to it and then build their defenses. That is where the secret competitive edge is for companies, for enterprises to make money, and also to get the defenses up. So it's important to open source these things and share the technology, but how fast we can adopt it and then get our systems more sharp. And just like we have talked to that on this one, right, where AI or any of these are it's a tool that can be weaponized or can be used for good. So on both sides, it is there. Same thing applies for open source. We need to make sure there is a hygiene. At the same time, how do we use speed to accelerate our defenses?
You're right. I mean, a tool is a tool is a tool. It's not the tool it's not how the tool itself. It's how it's used. and who is using it?
These open source tools are a trust experiment. If you really, really look at it, it's a trust experiment, and trust cuts both ways. So we need to have these hygiene in place and everything to make sure that we are protecting it and then upping our defenses.
Absolutely. I really like, too, what you said about how, it's not secrecy that's the competitive edge, it's speed, right? Like, I do think, especially in this moment, when we're dealing with these AI-generated threats, we're talking about these AI amplified threats we're talking about, speed really takes the cake. I think that sounds good. How about we move on to our next segment here, folks? Kaspersky released a report about the dark web economy based on an analysis of 2 years' worth of job posts on dark web forums. Overall, we get the picture that the dark web job market operates a lot like the legitimate one, including the fact that dark web employers are getting pickier. They're increasingly demanding that candidates pass tests and security checks. And dark web recruitment efforts tend to increase when layoffs in the legitimate market increase. So there's a kind of very interesting connection there that I want to probe. But first, initial reactions. Let's start with you, Nick. How are you feeling about this dark web job market report?
I mean, not surprised in the least. I mean, we have seen this developing for years now as we have watched bad actor groups become more organized, the way they work, with each other and the way that they work with affiliates. I mean, it's just another enterprise. So why would another enterprise not just hire just like we do?
It's fascinating, right? Dave, how about you? Any thoughts there?
Disgruntled folks are going to turn where, right? So do the countries that have social safety nets not have as robust safety? Like, it's just a fascinating, like when we threw this out, Matt, as a topic, I was just like, we could talk the entire time about this, and I would love to get like sociology experts in and economics experts in. Like, this is so much bigger than a cybersecurity problem. It just is fascinating to me about like, where does this go? And the data that was in the report just scratched the surface around like, yeah, it's happening. Like, well, yeah, it's happening and it's been forming. And to your point, like, no big surprise at all. But I would love like the Freakonomics guys to do something on this. Like, this would be fascinating. Right?
Then the other issue is none of us here are of questionable moral character. So most of us would probably think I would never do that, right? It wouldn't even cross my mind. But we tend to see, especially in the security industry, that you don't have to have someone with that questionable of a moral character if you put them in a bad enough place, where eventually their morals will flex and bend because, well, survival first and then high morals second. And that's just where some people, I think, are being pushed. And so if you have people that already had a questionable moral character, well, then it just got a lot easier.
I think that is the biggest thing, right? It's not about what is your line, where you will be pushed over that edge. Right? We were having this conversation about morality with somebody, that if you want to put food on your table for your children, what comes first? At that point, what do you choose? I think that is what dictates in a lot of things. And this is not something which is happening today. We have seen that in different parts of our country, in different times, when there is a depression, when there is with mafia, drug cartels. It's no different than this, right? When you have a huge unemployment and then people are trying to figure out their living, this is bound to happen. The bad actors are bad actors. That's going to happen no matter rain or shine, right? The good people who are pushed into that is very easy when they have no other choice. So that's why it becomes extremely important for governments and corporations to think about how are they going to reskill? How are they going to make sure that human beings, to me personally, this is Suja's opinion, which is, we are up to no good when we have nothing to do. We need to be busy.
Oh, idle hands.
Idle hands.
One of the things that's interesting to me is it's like a two-way flow in some ways, right? Because like, we're talking about how when we have layoffs or people are in difficult positions, they might use their legitimate skills for legitimate ends. I'm thinking about how we talk about layoffs and we talk about how we've seen a handful of them happen recently, and some of them have been connected to, we're hiring less or we're letting people go because now we have AI to do more things. Anybody have thoughts on that?
I'll keep it basic as far as that goes. In my opinion, AI is going to happen. It's not going away. You're not going to stop it. So embrace it. To me, it's the next industrial revolution. I think I might have said that last time. And to try to fight it just means you're just going to get run over. So the best you can do is learn to take advantage of it. I mean, those of us here in technology, we know, learn the new stuff. If you just sit with the old stuff, you catch fire. That's how it works. Now, do I think we're trying to move forward a little too fast in some cases? Maybe.
And let's end it there on that note of a happy middle ground and move on to our next story. Factory breaks up an AI fraud ring. In this case, the attackers built a sophisticated infrastructure to exploit some free and reduced AI compute for malicious ends. It worked kind of like this, and I'm a little bit impressed with how the scheme worked. So you've got, these coding agents like Factories and many others. They offer free trials or reduced rates for new customers. So what these scammers did is they used their own kind of AI infrastructure to spin up a bunch of fake organizations and sign up for accounts and get these free and reduced rates from a bunch of different assistants, not just Factories. And then they pooled it all together as like their own little pool of tokens. And then they bundled that and sold it to other users who could then use it for things like vulnerability research or funneling attack traffic, generally malicious ends. Like I said, I'm a little bit impressed almost by the kind of elegance of it and the sophistication of it. And I just want to throw to you first, Dave. Your thoughts on this kind of fraud, this AI fraud we're seeing?
I don't think it's terribly new, right? I think clever people are going to find clever ways to break in, right? If you go to any new thing, they're going to find, they didn't think of this. What's the slick way to sneak in, right? Paywalls were evaded before they were figured out how to get around them, right? Anything, right? So, they'll fix it. It's governance and it's policy and it's audit and right. So, I'm not terribly surprised. It's just growing pains.
It's one thing we have been talking about. How do we stop AI from harming us as a society and all those things? There is a lot of talk. This is about humans harming AI, right? Arming it out, and then how do we prevent AI from being harmed by humans, right? So it's in both sides, and this is one case of, hey, how do they used AI to cause more harm? And who did it? It's humans who did it. It's not like AI harming us, it's humans who did it. How do we bring that protection? And how do we make sure that this becomes a critical infrastructure now? AI is not something pretty on top. It's part of the critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructure, which was not exposed, is now exposed thanks to AI. How do we protect it? How do we make sure the right controls are in place? I think free tier became a zero-day vulnerability now. That's what this start is.
That's a really good point, right? The free tier became a zero-day vulnerability. I like how you put that. And I also, you took the words right out of my mouth when you said that this was about humans attacking AI, right? Like, it's very interesting to me. The Anthropic story that I compared it to was very much about AI being used to attack. And now we're talking about attacking AI. And sometimes I wonder if in our conversations around AI security, we often focus a lot on the AI-powered threats and even how how defenders are using AI, but not necessarily on the fact that you have to also defend the AI, right? Like, it's part of your system. It needs protection too. So I think that this, it raises the salience of that point. Nick, any thoughts on your end?
I feel like this is just another pitfall of technology that's new, shiny, and cool, and we want to do stuff with it. So we spend so much time finding out what we can do without asking ourselves what we should do. And it happens. And it's, as someone said earlier, I think it was you, Dave, it's growing pains. And it is what it is until we figure out how to put better guardrails around this thing. And for every guardrail we put up, somebody's going to figure out a way to circumvent that guardrail. So we've got to keep trying. It's just going to be a continuous rat race, as the security industry's always been. So welcome back to the club.
One of the things that was really interesting to me was the way that Factory kind of responded to this after they found it. They taught the coding assistant itself to create a set of fraudulent traffic classifiers so it could spot when someone was coming through this little network, evaluate traffic against those classifiers, and then block it, right? So that's a clear use of like AI being used to stop AI. I thought that was extremely nifty, and I want to just go back around the circle real quick to get some thoughts on how we protect our AI, like Suja said.
I'm going to throw shade on that really quick, because if they were able to fix it and do that so fast, why didn't they do it in the first place?
That's a good point, Nick. That's a good point.
That's like me figuring out, wow, if I lock the door, the bad guy has a harder time getting in. Maybe I should have locked it in the first place.
No, that's fair, right? That's fair. Maybe those traffic classifiers should be there in the first place. Maybe it shouldn't take an attack. I don't know. I guess you're right. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe hindsight is 2020.
It's one of those things of throwing it out there to use it before it's ready.
Any other thoughts on that? Dave, you have any thoughts there about the AI classification? Or just protecting our AI in general?
I agree with Nick. I think there's a we got to get it out there, right? And it could be we got to be first to market, right? Because I'm competing, right? Or my CFO says I have to, right? Because we're going to save 12 cents or $10 million or whatever the business case is, and it doesn't matter if it works, right? Because I'm going to make my date, right? And so what's going to get cut? This stuff, right? Guardrails, audit, oversight, security, robust testing. Boring. I didn't hear anything. Those are all non-functional requirements, right? None of that stuff. I'm not putting any of that in my commercial, right? None of that's going in my Super Bowl commercial. None of it. I do have a chicken and a monkey, though. Those things are going in, right? So.
I guess,
So,
yeah.
but no,
cybersecurity-
I think like there's such speed, and it's got to get out there. You got to get the press release. You got to get the clicks, right? That they want to get the free trials used. I love that. I mean, Suja, beautifully said, right? Their 0 day was their free trials. Like yeah, that's awesome, right? So someone found a way through it. That's a good one.
We are, I'm telling you, this is a tagline machine, this episode, folks. Suja, I just want to give you a chance. Any last thoughts on this topic to round us out before we move on to the next one?
This is where AI combating with AI. I think one of our podcasts where JR was talking about the red agent and the blue agent, red being bad, blue being good. And then we figure out how do we make sure, because as Dave just pointed out, you need AI to combat AI, the same, just like how you need humans to do that. So we need to be thinking about it day zero rather than after the fact.
Absolutely. Let's move on then to our final story for the day, something much lighter than the things we were just talking about. A wind farm worker who tried to use turbines to mine cryptocurrency. An employee at a Dutch wind farm was caught installing crypto mining rigs on his employer's network, including blockchain nodes inside of the actual wind turbines themselves. Crafty, but, he did get caught, of course. It's comical, but it is also a good reminder of the dangers of insider threats. For example, we did see a more serious insider threat last week at CrowdStrike, where the cybersecurity firm found out one of their employees was selling screenshots of internal systems to our friends at Scattered Lapses Hunters. And the hackers said they agreed to pay this insider $25,000 for that activity. So, it can be a lot more serious. But to start off, again, I just want to get some initial reactions to either this wind farm scheme or insider threats in general. And Nick, like I said, I know you folks tackled this on your latest episode of Not the Situation Room. So start us off here. What are your thoughts?
Well, first off, I want to say hats off to CrowdStrike for catching that person before their dastardly scheme was able to take hold, because they did. They caught him and stopped it before access was granted to our shiny Lapsus Hunter friends. And this one, it's hard to tell it with a straight face. I mean, just like I said before on our podcast, the idea of windmills mining Bitcoin is just pure comedy. And the salt in the wound is the fact that they did it while they were, the individual did it while they were in the process of already trying to recover from a ransomware event. It was like, really, dude? I mean, come on. And so, yeah, I mean, it highlights the threat of, that insiders can pose. But this one, I never would have thought of that. But he did get busted, and he has to perform a certain, I forget the amount of community service hours, and he has to pay a fine back to the company for damages and to the state.
It's creative though. It's innovative. You know, he was thinking.
Never heard of that before. I have to give him credit for that. Using
I was
green
just
energy to mine
thinking-
Bitcoin.
I was just thinking what Nick was going to say. He didn't want anybody to be using their laptop or doing holiday shopping. Here is a guy.
Yeah, it's like that on steroids, right? It's like, don't use your laptop to go holiday shopping. Don't use the company's wind turbines to mine Bitcoin. These are simple things, really, folks. These are simple things. But Suja, no, I wanted to give you some space too. Any thoughts on your end about this, or also just again insider threats in general, things to be vigilant about? What are your thoughts?
This guy knew what he was doing. So obviously, we need to figure out even operationally, what are the alerts there where you're looking at anomalies to say something? Because anomalies can be that your customers like what you're doing, or it could be something that is happening in the system. So we need to have better tools to detect these anomalies so you can catch it. But inadvertently, people doing it, right? Like, because just like what the shopping thing that Nick talked about, where people use their laptops for shopping all the time, or you just took a stapler home, or like sticky home. People are used to that. They don't think it is wrong. So this can become an extension to it, where when they are using these tools, they don't think that they are doing anything wrong, and then they end up doing it. So that's why the tools need to be there to prevent us from doing some of these things. And the landscape is evolving every day. So we just learn from it, as Dave was talking about. We are in growing pains. We have to learn and then make mistakes and then put guardrails and keep doing it. It's an iterative process.
That's an extremely good point. And, when we say a word like insider threat, it sounds like very evil and mean, and sometimes it is kind of malicious. But like you said, shopping on the company laptop, as we keep saying, that's also a version of insider threat, right? It's negligent, it's not malicious, but it's still a version of that. And it's worth being, aware of that kind of thing. Dave, any thoughts on your end here?
Yeah, I mean, I have two other letters, right? And they're not AI. I know, shocking, and I'm not kidding, right? So, like, this is the first time we've said OT. This is good. I mean, now granted, we don't have an outsider attacking OT, and it's not really an attack, but this is real, right? I mean, we've got a very large portion of our world that is not IT. In fact, IT doesn't exist without the OT, right? IT's not running without juice. It needs the power. And that's just the simple part of it. So I think OT's and the securing OT, I mean, that's a couple of weeks of podcasts.
Yeah, Dave, I was actually never a fan of calling it something different, because to me, one doesn't exist without the other. So
it's IT, OT, however you want to, IoT.
Mm-hmm. Right, there we go.
Now that's another thing, right?
New, cool, different names to make it something different. But yeah, what I'm getting at.
For sure. But I mean, it's a whole nother realm of things that are currently being modernized, right? Smart everything, grids, et cetera, right? And AI is just sitting there looking at it, waiting to get its gritty little paws on it.
It couldn't be opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Because you're talking about AI, which is the newest of all things we're talking about, and then OT, which is probably one of the oldest, and OT was never meant to talk to those other things.
It's the first kind of like story that we've had here, like that has OT in it. So I was kind of like, oh, kind of interesting.
With all these AI and everything, energy becomes a key thing, right? So energy theft has become easy because of what we have today. So we need more compute power for anything, good, bad, and ugly. So how are people going to tap into it? That becomes a huge threat vector now. And as Dave pointed out, that is now exposed to the world for grabs.
And you're right, Dave. This is the first time in this episode we've talked about OT, which operational technology, for people listening who aren't aware of that. The producers have yelled at me in previous episodes for not clarifying that. So OT is operational technology. Yeah, it's a good point, though, that this is the first time we've talked about it in this episode, but it is a massive attack surface. And like you said, Nick, it's weird that we treat them as separate things, right? And in treating them as separate things with different names or whatever, we also create this kind of gap where like we know that OT is patched less regularly than IT, and there are various reasons for that. But at the end of the day, it does create like a two-tiered system, and I don't know, we're leaving ourselves kind of open in some ways. So this is one of those examples of how we leave ourselves open. Maybe people weren't paying as much attention to these turbines as they might have been to a work laptop. I don't know,
Well, I'm sure that the guy doing this was hoping that no one was paying attention. And he might have got away with it if it wasn't for those dang kids.
So ransom of.
Are you saying the mystery van was outside?
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you to our panelists, Nick, Dave, and Suja. Thank you to the viewers and the listeners. As always, subscribe to Security Intelligence wherever podcasts are found. Stay safe out there. And if you haven't yet, thank your IT security people. I hear they really like fruit baskets. And keep an eye on your audio feeds this Friday, November 28th, for a special audio-only bonus episode of Security Intelligence. We've got a malware reverse engineer coming on to tell us the story of what it's like to discover a new strain of malware right in your inbox. Again, that's Friday, November 28th, coming to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you listen to the show. Thank you, folks.